Shalom everybody, we are continuing with where we left off in Likutey Halakhot, section Orach Chaim, the discourse on Nefilat Apayim, falling on one's face, discourse number 4, paragraph 20. Just to recap, Rav Nosson is going into the details of the whole concept and story in the Torah of the moon and the sun being created equally, and then the moon being diminished. So Rav Nosson is going to open our mind up to a few questions, that we should be asking. Why the need for two lights? Why didn't Hashem create just the sun, for example, and that it just revolves, and when it's night, it's pitch black? If now fire can be invented and now electricity, so let people use that. Why the need for the moonlight at nighttime? It's a time to sleep anyways. Just have one light, the sun, okay? So that's a question. Number 2, the whole way how Hashem created the concept of light, and the biggest representation in the universe of light is the sun. And also light reflecting the concept of clarity. Light is a sense of vision. But like when they have in comics, oh, I have a great idea, and they show a picture of a light bulb, showing that light and clarity in light, clarity of vision, spiritual vision of the mind are associated. So he's going to go into this idea, how it's related to the infinite light. Hashem used, Rav Nosson is going to say, the representation of the sun and the moon, representing light, to show us that they are receiving for something higher. That such an embodiment in the creation, the sun, so powerful, and it's emitting light, is to tell us that, and to show us that this is emanating from a higher source, the infinite light. Okay, he's going to go into that also. And why, again, the need of two. Also, how come Hashem didn't create like 3 bodies of light? Why, like, remember in the Star Wars movies, you have sometimes they put like 2 suns in the sky. There's different planets and different constellations and whatever. So these are questions Rav Nosson wants to go into, and he wants to open our mind to begin to think about these things on their deeper meaning. And always Rav Nosson has in mind the basic concepts laid out by Rabbi Nachman in the Likutey lesson 24. That's what he wants to get to, and these things are to help to sharpen the mind to begin to think about these ideas in our life. So Rav Nosson says like this. We're continuing again, paragraph 20, the second section. Ki chama ulevana oram nimshach mibechinat or ha'insof. So Rav Nosson is establishing a fact. For the sun and the moon, their light, even though there's the physical light of the sun, but the concept of light to show us that there's light. We're born into a creation where everything's dark, like on another planet or something. There's light here because of the moon. Okay? So these concepts of light, of the sun and the moon, their light is drawn from the concept of the infinite light. Hashem blessed be He. The light of the infinite one. Shehu lemala minefesh ruach neshama v'chole. That this light, this infinite light, is above what's called the soul, okay, the spirit and the upper soul. Nefesh is the lower soul, ruach the spirit, and the upper soul, etc. And this concept Rabbi Nachman mentions explicitly in the Likutey lesson 24. Rabbi Nosson wants to get to something, so that's why he's bringing this in, reintroducing this idea that the infinite light is above nefesh, ruach, neshama, and it's a spiritual light. And he's telling us that the moon and the sun, their physical light, is emanating from a light that's above our connection to spirituality at maximum, which is nefesh, ruach, neshama. This light goes beyond that. Even though the soul, the spirit, and the upper soul, they're already a spiritual entity of ours, yet the sun, which is shining a light, is emanating from a light above these spiritual levels that we have access to. And it's called the infinite light. And Rav Nosson reminds us, Kanizkar le'el ba'Torah hanizkar le'el, as mentioned in the lesson mentioned above, lesson the Likutey. Why Rav Nosson is going to this? Hopefully, as we go on in the discourse, it'll become clear why he's mentioning this point. Because it's from the infinite light that comes the light of all bodily lights in the creation, of all the worlds, of all the universes. So the sun and the moon shining light is showing us that it's emanating from a very higher source, which is the infinite light. And that's the fact. Rav Nosson says that since light, infinite light, which is clarity in life, we call it light, we call it the infinite light. That's what it's called, light. It's not smell, it's not taste, it's light specifically. In our physical existence, that's related to the eyes. But of all the senses, the eyes are the highest below the brain. Eyes higher than the ears, then the nose, then the taste, the mouth. So it's above all the senses. That's why we call it light, because it's like the maximum capacity of experience. With divine, we call it light. So physical light is to tell us that there's light, the concept of light, and it has a root in the infinite light, which means clarity. Clarity. The light is not just to see, but it gives you clarity of not just vision, but clarity of understanding. For example, there's some halachic opinions that a Rav, when checking an etrog for a Sukkot, there's some say that not to check at nighttime. Even if he's checking in a room where there's actual electricity light and he's checking with that light, the sunlight coming from the windows enhances the clarity of seeing how kosher an etrog is. Again, it's a certain halachic opinion. According to halacha, you're allowed to check an etrog at nighttime, no problem. But there's a hidur, there's a preference to check etrogim during the day, because the sunlight affords clarity of just vision and also seeing properly, clearly, if an etrog is kosher or not, which is like the halachic ramification. So it offers clarity, not just sight clarity, but also spiritual, mental clarity. That's the idea of light in general, okay? So he's saying, Rav Nosson, the light, which is represented mainly in creation by the sun and the moon, even though we have fire and we have electricity, etc., still the main embodiment of light are these existence. They're the big representation of the light coming from the infinite one. Because the infinite light is the source of light in all the creation. When you have light, it's coming from the infinite light. Clarity, it's coming from the infinite light. So now Rav Nosson says, if that's the case, umechamat shezeh haor, אי אפשר להשיג כי אם על ידי שני בחינות הנזכרים לאל, שהם הרדיפה והמעכב כנזכר לאל. And now, with that being established, so since this light, which is the infinite light, the way Hashem designed us to be able to connect to the infinite light, it's the only way to perceive the infinite light, Rabbi Nachman explains in lesson 24, is through the two concepts we mentioned earlier: running and then bouncing back, being refrained. A running and restraint. Hashem created our accessing the infinite light, and now it coming down to the representation of the physical lights of the sun and the moon. It makes sense now why there's two, because they're rooted in the concept of running, redifa, where Rabbi Nachman said in lesson 24, the person's mind, when exposed to godliness, intellect, the mind wants to run forward, wants to perceive. Okay? But the keter, he says in lesson 24, it stops the mind from running. It bounces, it's like a wall, and bounces the mind back. So there's a redifa, and then ma'akev, there's the bouncing back. And while being bounced back, which is like going backwards into a type of darkness, not understanding, a confusion, what's going on here, in that, the person creates vessels to shine the infinite light into that. It's something which is phenomenal, this idea. Because you would think, like in the secular world, that the way to advance is to advance. That's how you advance. Technology, money, education, you advance. Judaism, for the real deal, the real light, it's running and then being bounced back. And in the bounce back, that's where you get the light. Unbelievable. So this is the way to perceive the infinite light. That already answers why there's a sun and the moon It's not enough just the sun, but you have to have the moon. And you have to have the moon diminished. Like the Torah said, remember the verse we read in the last class? The big light, after it says the two big lights, it says the big light to rule in the day. And then the smaller light, which is the moon, to rule at night. He's going to also answer Rav Nosem. So why is it called two big lights? And then it was diminished to a big light and a small light. He's going to explain that now. Because they both work together. They work together. And the goal of a person, of a Jew, is you have to reach a point where there's no distinction. When you're running and when you're bounced back, you're totally unified. You're totally in. You're not pushed off the grid when you have the bounce back. You may be thrown back, but you're on the grid. You're still holding on with your emunah. You're connected. When they throw you off and there's no understanding and you don't know what Hashem, what are you doing to me? Why are you pushing me back? You have the emunah to hold on, staying on the grid. As much as you're pushed back, but you're on the grid. So joining it together is so important. That a person, it's part of life. He reaches a point where he's not at all deferred, and deterred. That's the word, by the setbacks of the ma'akev, of being prevented. Rather, it's part of the picture, and he knows about it, and he's able to jive with it and maintain simcha, stability, whether running forward or whether being bounced back. He has a basic simcha and emunah which reunite them. So that's why Rav Nosson explained, that's why they're called the two big lights. Because even the light of the moon, which is diminished, it's really big because it's part of the picture. It's the only way to receive the infinite light is through the vessel of the moon being diminished. Okay, this again on a personal level, that's a representation of these two lights. So when the moon is diminished, it's still connected to being called, it's the initial creation of the moon, it's a big light. But it's diminished. You say the two big lights, and you say the one light, the sun, to rule during the day, and the smaller light to rule during the day. You just said big lights, because really the small light is really a big light, because it's the only way to receive the big light of the infinite light is specifically that the moon is darkened. So it said initially the two big lights, and then it goes on to say, and one of the smaller one, because they're really united. Okay. ומחמת שזה העורב שנעשה הקים על ידי שני בחינות הנעל שמשם מבחינת שני המאורות הגדולים שם רדיפה והמעכב, like we said. So these two lights represent the running and the being bounced back, mentioned above many times. על כן משני בחינות אלו נמשך ונשתלשל בחינת שני המאורות הגדולים. This is what we just explained. Therefore, from these two concepts of the running and being bounced back is drawn and is rippled effect the two big lights mentioned in the verse, the two big lights, the sun and the moon, Shem Chama u'Levana, which are the sun and the moon, Shem Nimshachin mishnei bechinot elu. They're specifically two, and they're drawn from their root of shining the infinite light in these two concepts of the redifa and ma'akev, running forward in life and then being bounced back. Shem bechinat haredifa v'ma'akev, like we said, they are the concept of the running and the bouncing back. Sheshnehem nichlalim yachad. Like we said, they're called the two big lights because they're totally unified. Sun and the moon are connected. Also, like we said, the light of the moon is coming from the sun. It's just dependent on the positioning of the earth in between sun and moon, which now determines how much of the waning of the light is shining onto the moon. How much the dark part of the moon, dark side of the moon, and how much is the light side, dependent on the positioning of the earth between them. And that's the cycle, the connection between the solar cycle and the lunar cycle, where that's the difference of a few days and a few hours and a few minutes, which is why the rabbis have the special knowledge of intercalation, knowing how to make a 13th month, a leap year, with an extra additional month, when to do it, when not to do it, in order to keep them balanced, even though there's a difference. Amazing, huh? It's phenomenal, this idea. אוקיי? שהם נמשכים משני בחינות אלו, שהם בחינת רדיפה מעכב. ששניהם נכללים יחד, ועל ידי שניהם דייקה משיגין אור האינסוף בבחינת מטה ולא מטה וכולי כנזכר להם. And it's specifically through both of them, through both together. You need both. You need the sun and the moon. You need the shining stability of the sun, which is the running of the mind, and you need the pushing back the instability of the moon, where it's dark light, shining, less shining, and but it's receiving from the light of the sun, but it's diminished, which is the idea of being pushed back. It's through specifically both of them that we can perceive the infinite light in the concept, and that Rav Noson's using the term from the Zohar that Rabbi Nachman brings, Parshat Bereshit, Parshat Noach, page 65a, the concept of mate velo mate, reaching and not reaching. Reaching and not reaching is the other term that Rabbi Nachman uses for the running of the mind and the bounce back, being pushed back. Mate means to reach. Lo mate, you're not reaching. And you need both. You need both to perceive. It's like a big message of life. That if you think that all of Judaism is about light and light and light and advancement, you're wrong. The way to advance is you advance and you're pushed back. Advance, push back, advance, push back. And it's in the pushback that you receive what you're looking for. The infinite light to fill you, to shine into you in order to continue. That's the secret of success of all the people who made it, all the tzaddikim, all the big shots who made it in life, is because they knew how to handle the setbacks. That's such a big message. And it's shown in the sun and the moon. Why there's two and why there's a waning of the moon. And yet the Torah calls even the moon a big light. Even right afterwards it says that it's small. It was diminished. So if it was diminished, we asked the question in the last class, so why call it a big light? Because the goal is to unify them. That even though there's a waning, it's just like the moon is always connected to the sun. Always, there's like a speck. It's never total black. It reaches the smallest point, and there's still a tiny hair's breadth of light shining onto the moon from the sun. The question is where it stops diminishing, and then at that point it starts to grow. And that's when the Beit Din declares Mekudash, Mekudash. At the time of the temple, they would say, okay, the new moon has started to grow. But it's never zero. It's like at 0.1, 0.2, and that's when the witnesses come to say, I see it like this, and now I saw it beginning to grow. And that's the testimony of the witnesses in the Beit HaMikdash. Today we don't have that. We have it, it's automatic, set up by the sages throughout times, how to figure out when is a full month, a diminished month, 29 days, 30 days, okay? So this is the connection of the sun and the moon always, and they're unified, and we have to continue that unification. That even when the moon is dark, it's really one with the sun, and it's unified. There are two big lights, because that's the only way to receive the infinite light, which is represented in the sun and the moon. Our running after the spiritual infinite light, the representation we're given in life of this idea is the sun and the moon. We're supposed to learn from it. That this connection, they work together in the daily cycle, and that's how we also have to be united like that. We'll continue B'ezrat Hashem with more details. Rav Nosson brings verses and Gemaras afterwards to develop this idea more. And once again, your feedback is always appreciated. Or just to say hello, you can reach out by WhatsApp only, +1 732 800 1863. An American number, 732 800 1863. Or by email, breslovtherapy, BRESLOV therapy @gmail.com. Thank you, and may Rav Nosson's light, the light of the tzaddik, Rabbi Nachman, shine into us like the sun and the moon. B'ezrat Hashem.